Every year, the experts at U.S. News & World Report rank the nation's best hospitals. They've recognized St. Vincent as the #1 hospital in Arkansas and listed 8 clinical areas as high-performing specialties. The next closest Arkansas hospital only had 3. This recognition is due to the unwavering commitment of our world-class physicians, dedicated nurses, and associates who have now made St. Vincent the state's #1 hospital.
Welcome back. Of course, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and as always, breast cancer survivors take center stage all over the nation to make people aware of early detection and treatment. Dr. Tanya Martin Dunlap with St. Vincent Breast Surgery Associates joins us today to talk a little bit about breast cancer survivorship and what that means for those people as well. Good to see you.
Hi, good to see you again.
We really celebrate, the fact that they've survived, but those people still need care and concern too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And breast cancer survivors, so we used to describe those as people who were 5 years out from their diagnosis, and we would call them cured at that point. So then they were a survivor.
5 years cancer-free.
Exactly.
Okay.
But now it's more of a catch-all term, women who've been diagnosed and either are going through or have had treatment. It's sort of a camaraderie thing for them, and some women don't like to be called survivors. They rather be called thrivers.
I've been hearing this word a lot this year.
Yeah, it's sort of a little bit of the rejection of the battle rhetoric that we use, the war against cancer. They'd rather think of not being a survivor, not fighting a battle, but rather thriving. And then there's also a group that we don't talk about a lot, co-survivors, and so that would be spouses, partners, children, siblings, people who really go through this with the survivors and are there in the thick of it with them.
It affects a lot of people around the survivor, doesn't it? Okay, let's talk about some of the issues that both thrivers and survivors face.
Okay, there can be a lot of emotional issues. I think a lot of people are familiar with the emotional ups and downs with the diagnosis and throughout the course of treatment that they may face. They can also have some emotional issues with the change in the relationship dynamics. They may not be used to having people help them out so much every day, and so to be dependent on other people can cause a lot of stress for these women. There's also a lot of fear and anxiety, and that's more in the concern that the treatment's not working, or is the cancer going to come back? And some women can actually suffer a smaller or milder form of PTSD,
which we think of in the military, but
exactly.
That sort of goes back. They've been battling, and this may be something that affects them. So we have to keep that in mind when we talk about our survivors. Now, those are sort of emotional issues. Are there physical ones as well?
Well, there are. So the most common thing, I touched on that, is concern about recurrence or the cancer coming back. And so they actually have a lot of frequent doctor's visits in certain situations, scans or tests, and that can be a very trying period. When they go for that test, go for that scan, they're very worried about what's going to come up in that test.
Okay.
There can be issues rising from surgery. They could have arm swelling or something called lymphedema. Chemotherapy, radiation can cause some different things, some fatigue, bone pain, memory loss. They can actually cause some heart and lung complications later on down the road, depending on which treatment was used. And then, memory loss we talked about.
Right.
There's also a concern of a new or different cancer coming up because of the treatment. And so, pop culture example, Robin Roberts, some people may have been watching.
Right.
She just celebrated her 1-year anniversary for her treatment of her MDS, or myelodysplastic syndrome, which most likely came about because of her breast cancer treatment a few years ago.
Breast cancer, so that always they have to continue and stay under their doctor's care. I think I skipped some of the points you wanted to make back on the emotional issues. Some of the ways that those can be addressed.
Well, I think it's important for these women to know that these are very normal and common issues that almost all of these women go through. So not to feel guilty for having these feelings. We know that a support network is important. So the family, the close friends, the church group, people who can be there for them. And then more formal support groups, so breast cancer survivors, people who are actually going through the treatment at the same time, can relate on a deeper level than the family and friends who haven't gone through it would be able to.
Very good. All good stuff, and I'm also thinking, you said, they rely on a lot of support from the family. Then when they're better, the family still may be trying to do too much for them when that survivor says, hey, I'm okay now, I feel better.
Exactly.
And I don't need you as much as I did.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of a paradoxical, we expect when the treatment's over for it to be a celebration and she's happy, but it can actually be a pretty big emotional letdown because she's been there, she's had everyone around her, she's had doctor's visits telling her, we'll do this, we'll do that, what's next. She's done, and now she kind of looks around and she's what do I do next?
Right.
Where do I go? And so I think it's important for people to kind of stick around after the treatment's over and still be there, because she still may need some support.
You don't want everybody gone right away.
Exactly.
Let's talk a little bit again about co-survivors and how they can help during this process.
Well, they can do day-to-day things, helping out with, you know, the daily tasks, the groceries, things that she may not feel like doing when she's in treatment. An important thing that I see a lot of people do is go to the doctor's visits with her. Take notes, because she may not remember. You know, we talk about a lot of details and there's a lot of information in these visits. So take notes, things she can look at later.
Right.
Help her remember questions that she wanted to ask. So, and then, you know, we talked about the group of people who come in and help during treatment. That can actually be overwhelming for a lot of women. They may not want to have visitors every day, and so sort of have a social secretary who can organize visitors to come in on certain days, bring a meal certain nights of the week. That can be very helpful for a lot of women.
You know, I've heard a lot of people say lately, don't say, if there's anything I can do, call me.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do it, even if it's something small like bring a dinner. Don't wait, because they might not call you.
Yeah, they may feel guilty to call and ask for help, and so just put it out there.
Just go ahead and do it, and do it in the right spirit, and they'll accept that. All right, well, we want to remind everybody, of course, about St. Vincent, where Dr. Tanya is, and St. Vincent Breast Surgery Associates. They're in the doctor's building, and there's the phone number if you have any questions or need any more resources as well. I know they can put you in the right direction or put you with one of the doctors. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.